Yeah, I wanted to do an update on the Nissan Maxima. I've been going around with these ignition coils here, and I was getting a check engine light, a 1320 primary ignition circuit, and I was thinking it was the something wrong with the ignition coils. So I put in the original factory coils back in it. The previous owner had saved them, but they had also installed these aftermarket MAS coils. And so I put the original ones back in, and I was driving it around, and I would occasionally experience like the engine would stumble. And so I went ahead and put the MAS coils back in the car, and at that time also I replaced the starter, and I figured out that the starter is what was causing the 1320 code. It had a bad spot on the commutator, and it was even though it would start the engine, it would start it a little weird, like there was a spot where a dead zone in the starter, and it was causing a lot of ripple in the power supply, and that was being picked up by the ECU. And when the car was trying to start, and it would immediately set that 1320 code. And so I actually have put the MAS aftermarket coils back in the car, and I've been driving it several weeks, and there hasn't been any issues with the car stumbling or checking. There's no check engine codes or anything like that, and the car is like settled in, and it seems to be these new aftermarket coils, although they do measure differently, a lot differently with an ohm meter. They are working in the car, and they're not causing any issues that I can tell. The car runs very smooth and powerful, no stumbling, and no check engine lights at all. So these are a viable alternative to the factory ignition coils, MAS, and the part number here is DQ50133. and DQ50133C. If you want to, I guess that's for the fronts and the rear. There are different links and different configurations of the coil, and also they measure quite differently. The factory coils all measure the same when you check the resistances of the three terminals, whether it's the 135 or the 246. But these aftermarket terminals, they're very different in how they measure. They actually look different, and they measure different, but they do function in the car, and so far there's been no problem with them. So what I figured out was the starter had a bad spot in the commutator, and that was what was causing the 1320 code, and the stumbling was caused by the ignition coils. One or two of them are failed. I know the number one was bad, and I think maybe the 5 also, but I'm not sure. Just based on how the spark plugs look when I replaced the spark plugs. So I've gone through and done quite a lot on the car. The valve cover gaskets were leaking, and that was causing a lot of smoking up under the hood, dripping oil down. So I replaced the valve cover gaskets, and of course I had to replace the intake gasket because I had to pull the intake gasket up to get to the valve cover. Then it's got new spark plugs in it. Replaced the radiator, it was leaking, and the battery connections were also bad. They were cracked, and that may have also been contributing to that 1320 code. And so it's got new drive belts on it. Of course, the knock sensor was bad. I replaced that. I put in some brakes, some tires on it, and I think that's the hood struts, probably a few other things, but good running car now, and I'm very happy with it. It's got a lot of power, and it's smooth. So that's the update. These aftermarket coils, they're okay for me in this case. At first I was thinking it was an issue, but it turned out to be something else.